Territory management, laser prospecting, less is more. What the heck am I talking about? You know, coming up with a two-day boot camp and limiting our topics, it was really fun and challenging to come up with the segments that we thought would all fit together and work together and provide the most value. This is one of those topics, again, I mentioned, I'm going to say it a couple of times during the boot camp, that I think A, is so easy to pull off, and that to me is always a key in training, when you can find some secrets and tricks and techniques that can really be implemented very easily, that have unbelievable results. That's a huge part of it. And second, it's another one of those topics that I feel profoundly impacted my career, profoundly. And because it's that good, it's that easy to do, and it has that sort of dramatic impact. So what I've done here is I've put together basically two segments that I often train on separately, but they tie really well into each other. And it's the concept of territory management, and it applies to anyone, whether you're dealing with retained search, permanent placement, contingency, temporary placement, outside sales, inside sales. You got it, territory management. No, I put it on your plate there. Someone might have stolen it. If we can get another copy. And so it's for any position that you're in, no matter what, and it's awesome. And then we're going to talk about the element of leads and how to really utilize them for this business. And that's geared predominantly towards contingency search, but you can certainly do the math on it. So we're going to get into all these things. We're going to start with leads, and I know you all know, getting leads and using leads, and we know we can get leads. I'm going to present it to you in a way that I don't think it's been presented to you before, and I'm going to get you to buy into really being committed to view them and to act on them differently than anything that you've done before, and how you need to have them as a KPI and why that's so key. And then again, the main concept is that less is more, and you're going to see why we called this segment that. Less is more, and that's going to be one of the key lessons you're going to take with you. We're going to get into hunting and farming calls, but I'm going to tell you, in your handouts, there's a lot of information about how to make a lot of these farming calls. I'm not going to go through all the slides. I'm going to tell you that in advance. They're there for you as a resource and to take home with you, and I'll gloss over them so you can see why they're in there. But mainly, we're going to talk about hunting and why I think that that's super, super critical. And then we're going to, again, I'm going to leave you with some pitfalls to avoid, but really most of that's going to be takeaway. What we really want to get out of this session is, again, viewing leads differently than you viewed anything else ever before, and how you must cut down your territory to actually accomplish a lot more than you've ever accomplished, okay? So, leads. Anyone who has ever worked with me, I have to say that the concept of leads and utilizing them to grow your business has been paramount to me. It is one of the things that I have driven into anyone that I've ever worked with, that I've trained any new employee on. It's the thing that I started doing immediately that got me out of the gate and highly, highly successful. It's a cure-all. There's two of them. I get into one later. But it's a cure-all in the sense that it could take a desk and it could make it that much more successful by implementing a program like this. It could take a struggling salesperson and it could turn them around. All right, and it could train a newbie on how to really do the business the right way. So it's perfect for anything. In my mind, using leads as a methodology to drive your market is the only way to do the business. So that's in my mind. I'm not suggesting that all of you need to think that way. I'm just telling you that from my own perspective, from what I've seen work, I believe that gaining leads, and in particular leads on job orders, finding out where the business is critical and really the only way that I've ever really worked on a desk. So here's a question that I asked to everyone. How upset would you be if you came back to work on Monday and you found that your open order list, your placement report, everything you have was stolen and it ended up in the hands of two of your biggest competitors? Anyone be upset over that? Right? The rule typically not good. If you came back in, your boss said, hey, listen, I needed to make a little extra money. I sold all of our open orders, all the places we've made in the last year, all the job orders that we just wrote yesterday, the ones we have send-outs on, and I sold them to our competitor for 10 grand. A little mad? Now, normally there's someone who will say, no, Neil, I don't care, because if they're a client, then we're not going to lose them. But people do care, because it's stuff you worked really hard at getting. You worked hard to get the orders, right? You worked hard at getting the candidates. You worked hard at getting the send-outs, right? We know how critical they are to the business, right? But think about it. What would happen? Why would you be upset? So you all said yes. Why would you be upset? Why would you care?
Well, I mean, I would care, but I probably wouldn't be that upset.
Right, and we were talking before, because you're one of saying, hey, if they're my client, I'm not going to lose them. My only caveat to that is, I know, but you're going to open the door up for another competitor that might ultimately win them. You will lose some on that. Who else said they were upset? Why would you care?
It's lost effort. It's wasted effort.
Lost effort? You think you'd lose some business? Absolutely. Just like that, right?
I think so. Well, you would be inviting in other competition at a certain percentage. That is bound to.
Right. Law of math will work. You're going to lose some business on it, Sean.
I think it's a competitive market, and knowledge of the position is one thing, but timing right now is everything. And to have someone have that information and have it 2 weeks later than me is a big deal versus getting it at the same time.
Well, timing's always something, right? So, I mean, right, but you're right. So you have a send-out going on. How would you feel if someone would always know anytime you had a send-out going on, they researched a job and they MPC'd or MPA'd or skill marketed or faxed over resumes that fit that job exactly every single time? Would you lose money on it?
You're giving away a trade secret. Someone can beat you with a punch.
Right, trade secret. The bottom line is that would stink, right? Stink and be horrible. All right, but so we all understand the why to that. Now, on the same note, what if I told you that I'm really bringing you guys here together because I do have a product that I'm selling that I can give you this from your competitors. Right now, you pay me $500 each. I'm going to give you a list of all the open orders going on in your competitors and everything that's been going on in the last 3 months. Might some of you buy that if you believed it? Right? You sure would. That's great stuff. So, I don't want to get into a lot of mental games. And for those of you who are on my free training, I talk a lot about this concept. But people work a lot harder at avoiding pain than they do over, going for something of pleasure. You'll work a lot harder to avoid having money ripped off than to earning it. You would go nuts because you would recognize how much money you lose. But my whole point that I'm leading into is you can create exactly this by getting a good lead strategy implemented in your business. You can find out most of this information for free. It might cost you thousands and thousands of dollars if you were to lose this stuff, if it ended up at your competitors. On the flip side, if you got it, it might cost you thousands of dollars if someone sold it, or it might cost you hours of work to build it. But most people don't. And I'm just saying, again, I know you get the concept. The basic concept is we're going to use our candidates to find out where job openings are and where they're hot. And we're going to make that a major focus for driving all of our sales activity. All right? And again, it's in your hands, and you can really make this happen. So, I love the quantity versus quality chart, and I talk about it so much in our business because so many companies focus only on quantity. Sure, they deal with quality when it comes to training, but it's all about the numbers and get the numbers up. And obviously, all things being equal in any sales business, the more of anything you do with the quality the same means what? Quality is the same, your quantity goes up, what are your results what's going to happen? They go up. Quantity stays the same, quality goes up, but no extra calls, no extra activity, but your quality goes up, what happens? Both go up just a little bit, what happens? More money, exponential. One goes down, one goes up, what happens? It's right, tough to say, who knows? Maybe you're even. You know, if your quality goes up that much more and your quantity drops down that much more, you could be even. But you play both ends of this game, and that's what the training is really all about. The quantity versus quality game. I do not disagree that sales is a numbers game, that recruiting is a numbers game. Of course it is. I agree with everything Tim talked about with the send out to placement ratios. It is. But you want to work at getting those ratios always better, and that you do that with quality. Right? So we talk about quality in many different ways. It can be, how can you increase the quality of what you do? The quality of what, for example, can make your success better? The quality of your candidate. Throw them out. The quality of the job order. The quality of how you take the job order. The quality of the client. Are they a better client? Are they more likely to pay or not likely to pay? Are they more receptive to work with you? What else? Keep throwing them. The quality of the conversation. The quality of the information that you get. Anything else? Quality of the contacts. Quality of the relationship. Quality of the urgency. Quality of your screening process. Quality of the reference, how good the product is again. So quality is affected so many ways. The quality of your call, the cold call, the things we're training on in this boot camp, your skill marketing calls, your overall marketing approach, your territory, how that's being managed, your leads, all these things are quality. And so it's important that you measure both of them. But I think quality gets I don't know, it takes a back seat to quantity all the time. And the opposite should be the case. For me, one of the things I looked for when I first got into the business, to be honest with you, was a way to cheat. To cheat. I really did not love cold calling and making 100 calls a day. Show of hands, how many people love 100 call a day cold calls? There's usually one. No one, right? Who doesn't mind them? Okay, 3. Who thinks they suck? Hey, no! No one likes to make cold calls. Very few people. It's a horrific way to go about life. I could not stand it. I thought it would be the death of me in the business. So you know what? I figured out I've got to find a way to cheat. And it can't be the quantity game. I can't just make more of these mind-numbing calls. I've got to find a way not only to get better results for the number of calls I'm making, but to have what happen? Get better results and have my quantity decrease. I wanted to make less and get more. Another less is more. And it's really doable if you focus on the quality. So if the game plan is, I want to limit my cold calls and the stuff I can't stand, and I don't want to keep focusing on just raising the number of calls I make, I want to increase the quality, and I actually want to do that to a point where I can significantly, in some cases, lower the quantity of those calls, focus on the quality, and get much better results. And by the quality, in this presentation, I'm going to focus on 2 elements of it. But quality is anything we talked about. The training and your scripts and your approach, and did you debrief all the way? Did you prep right? All that stuff. But here, I'm going to talk about the quality of the prospect, the quality of the client, in other words, the quality of that lead, and that's going to be the lead section. Right? So when I say the quality of the prospect, what do you think I mean? The client. So what would make the quality better from a prospecting perspective?
I think it has to do with the type of company, the type of atmosphere, if they're a Fortune 100, if they're right.
So Fortune 100 might be better than a non-Fortune 100. You know, what else?
With the job order, is it precise? Do you understand it? Are there other things that you need to do to that job order in order to find the right candidate and give them everything to?
So is it precise? Can you get it, an ability to marry the two? Yeah.
Does it make sense? Is it something you can sell to a candidate?
So something that you could sell more to a candidate that's more appealing is a better quality job order.
Is it a step up? Does what they want match the skill set for what they could get for that price, for the salary, the benefits?
Okay. Sorry?
Is it competitive with anything else that's in the set of other jobs that?
Is it competitive with other jobs? Meaning if it's more within what we work, that's even better because a better likelihood we'll have the candidate and we'll place it. That quality's better, right? So all these things are quality of the client, of the prospect, of the lead. When we get into the pure territory side, we're going to talk about the quality, if you will, of working that client, working the zone, of penetrating the account, of really getting good at how we make the call. Right? How passionate and committed we are to closing that deal or to getting it. Both these things are quality. My point is, if you get really good at focusing on the quality, any one of these will work great, on the quality of the companies that you go after to pick up the phone, in other words, the greatest likelihood of success, right? That's what we're getting at with the quality, right? If you have something that 1 out of every 3 calls you can get a hit, another one is 1 out of every 300, that's the best, that's the worst, and you run the gamut, right? If you could focus on getting the best quality, and I mean focus on it and make them happen, that alone can mean you could do so fewer calls and still get better success. And then, out of those, if you focus on better quality, better information, better prep before you pick up the phone, better sales call, better pitch, when I'm in my zone, I'm in my peak, if you do all those things, and you do everything, best objection handling I can get, on my game, practicing before, when I get one, I'm going back and I'm going to do a little work. You do all those things, it also goes up, right? Those 2 things alone are the key to what makes this so simple to implement. Again, simple, but very hard, because people have to change their habits and you need to be committed to them. So, again, this is the key, and I just love the quote. I'd rather be a master prospector than a wizard of speech without anyone to tell my story. I love that, and I was taught that when I first got in the business, because it means it doesn't matter even if you've got this great, wonderful mouth, and you've got great scripts, and you have all these other things. If you're selling to the wrong people, or you're just, cold calling on doors, it's not going to do you any good. So the concept is all about prospecting. Prospecting is taught so much in so many sales industries and courses, and not nearly enough in our business. That's why I want this to be in the boot camp. Prospecting. Any sales course you ever take will list the steps of the selling cycle, and boom, prospecting is going to be number 1. And you know what? They're normally at prospecting. This means, the people that we find so we can get into the training. No, prospecting is critical. We want to call the best people we can get. We want the math to work for us. But people, again, accept that I'll try everything I can do. Neil, I get leads. I do that. Sometimes I get ads. I'll pick up people I know their searches. I'm doing a little bit of everything. And I'm going to focus on the quantity. No. You need to focus on the quality. And again, it's really profound because it's really, again, very, very easy to do. Look. Here's one thing that I want you to buy into, and this is that you need to work hard at getting the quality up. And again, I'm going to suggest it's through leads, and you do much more than you've ever done. Now, who here has ever gotten an order or a placement because they got a lead somewhere? Again, in retained, you found out someone uses retained search. You weren't in for that one by definition, but hey, later on you called them and you got a deal. Anyone ever make a placement from a lead that they gathered from a candidate? Sure. Right? It's great when that happens, right? Anyone do that all the time? Half the time? Quarter of the time? Start seeing some hands here. But, or less. And most people, when they get it and they happen to hit and it all works out and the stars are aligned, I'm not saying you don't do good work to make it happen, but hey, it happens. All right, so that's awesome. But our business is different, and you need to treat leads differently. You need to work at the quality of the prospect. What if you can work hard, half the effort, by the way, half the time you'll need to actually make cold calls. So we're going to take the time that we save on the quantity element of the equation, and we're going to spend that time, if we could save 4 hours a day of cold calling to get something that's infinitely better, what if you could spend 2 hours a day sourcing for the better quality? And it more than made up for it. Wouldn't you rather spend 2 hours when you save 4, get double the results somewhere else, and you make more money? Does that make sense? You actually have to work those at a strategy of making the quality of your prospect, and in this case, the leads, and we'll get more than just leads, but that's the best example of how you can make them the best and you focus on it. It's part of what you do. Now, our business is so hard. People who get into it from other industries often struggle, right? And what are some of the reasons? What do we hear?
I was taught exactly how to do every day what to do. It didn't require any initiative of my own to think of how to succeed. I was just,
Right, well, so that's on your mentor or whatever, right? But it's hard because it's very rote. It's full of activity and numbers and whatever. What else? Why else are business versus other sales businesses hard? Unpredictable. We deal with people. I mean, what other business do you have to sell something, and very often the same person has to manufacture the person, the same person has to put them in inventory, the same person has to account for them for inventory, the same person has to deliver the inventory, follow up with the inventory sale. Oh, and by the way, the inventory gets to have a say in where it's sold. Seriously, it's horrible. Temp perm, it's super hard. I mean, really, what other people product gets to have a say in the sale? The nerve of these candidates. How dare they be able to say yes or no to opportunities? Hey, but that's what we got into. It makes life a nightmare, doesn't it? Could you imagine if we could, warehouse people and we can just sell them and be guaranteed that they'll take any job that they have? They won't say no. They won't quit after a week. Right? Could you imagine that? That would be heaven. All right, so look, that's why the business is stink. It stinks. All right? You don't have to worry about a product, in your warehouse not returning any calls or not allowing you to pick them off the shelf and just disappear. It was there a week ago. I'm going there. They're nowhere to be found. Emails, calls, phones, the product's not there. Doesn't happen, right? So, yin-yang, I also talk about all the time, right? Who knows what yin-yang is? Balance, right? It's life force balance. The yin and the yang. There's a good and there's a dark side, perhaps. But they're good. They're all needed to make everything work in harmony. There's also, every cloud has a silver lining, and there's sort of reasons for everything. But this is the key about our business. There's downsides and negative forces that pull on us in the business, and all of them have opposite forces, and it's our job to capitalize on the positive forces. Negative forces are always interesting because they always pull you. Right? You'll always be pulled down from a negative force, but very often you need to reach out or find the positive. So the yin to our business, or let's say the yang to our business, is that it's so hard that people, they talk, they can make up their mind, they get to think, they don't shut up. What's the opposite side of that? Exact same. They're people. It stinks that they're people, but wow, it's great that they're people. Why? Who's not reading ahead on the slides? Why? Why is that great?
they know what we don't know.
They know what we don't know, meaning what?
They could be a resource for opportunities that we don't know exist yet.
Right? Our product talks. Our product talks. Right? They're people. They talk. I know you get this, and I've given this presentation a million times, and every time I do, I worry, my goodness, is this such a sophomoric topic that I'm dealing with people who've been in the business for 15, 20 years, and I always get great feedback on it, because you get it, but you don't. Meaning, you get it, but how have you made this a big part of your strategy for your desk or your business, a strategy for it? Not walking into, we know they talk, but have you taken advantage of that yang, that yin in this example? And have you made that your own? Our product tells us where it's been sold. Our product tells us who will be buying it. Our product tells us where it was sold in the past. Our product can tell us indirectly what sort of rates people are paying for it. Our product can tell us information about other products in the warehouse. Our product can tell us everything. Wow, isn't that amazing? But do we take advantage of it? Now, I don't love the joke so much necessarily on this, other than I've always used a copy machine analogy, and I love the concept of the talking copy machine. Because as I mentioned, when I trained anyone in the business, it was all about leads. When they first joined, first day, rookie, industry experienced person, they're going to do it this way for a while, even if they had 5, 6 years, 10 years of experience. So they can just get and have the light bulb go off. And what I would tell people, and once we hired a guy that sold office equipment and copy machines, and I was trying to make it real to him, and the light wasn't going off, and I'm like, look, dude, you sold copy machines. Imagine if you walk into your prospect's, office, and you're walking past a copy machine, and you're about to meet with someone, and you haven't sat down with the client, and the copy machine goes, psst, psst, over here. That's how copy machines talk. They always have that strange accent. I don't know why it is. Right? And it starts telling them how long ago it was bought there, what they paid for it, who they went through, what sort of deal they have on it, when it's coming off lease. My goodness. And again, I just think it's a cute analogy, but I want you to look at people that way. I want you to take advantage of this because it's critical. Okay? So, this is the general sort of MO of this. Right? The game plan is to make as many calls as you can that have the greatest likelihood of success. Anyone disagree with that? Whatever it is, the greatest percentage of success possibility, the more you make of those calls, you'll be far better off, right? If something has a 50% success rate and another type of call has a 25% success rate, how many more calls do you need to make on the 25% success rate calls versus the other one? How many? Anyone good with math? No, that's not a trick question. I'm not being cute. One has a 50% success, the other has a 25% success. How many more of these calls do you need to make? Right, you need to make double. If one's 5%, one's 50, you need to make 10 times the percent, right? Simple math. So let's put this into some sense. When you prospect, when you plan your day, your week, how much time and effort are you focusing on maximizing that mathematical number? How much time are you really spending? And again, I know you all get this concept, so I'm not being sophomoric or trying to insult anyone, okay? But how much time are you spending trying to say, it looks like the mix of my calls will yield 2% success. I think I can average 10% success, 5 times the rate. Now, I'm not saying you all don't make lead calls. There's some really great calls that have great likelihood of success, but they fall into your lap usually. That's how it happens in our business. Fall into your lap. You work hard at doing everything you're doing, but that's the game. I mean, what would happen, and this is the best way to look at it, what would happen, and this gets a little graphic, so those of you at home, if you have any children watching, please, we caution you to turn away. You got a gun right up to your skull, not your own. Someone's pointing the gun at your skull, and they say, listen, here's the deal. You're going to get a job order, and your life depends on it. If you do not get one, in the next phone call, your brains will be all over the white wall. Thank you, good night, everyone. I'm so motivational. What would you do? Call the police, all those fun things, right? So what do? So that's it, and they move it away, and they're just pointing at you the whole time. Would you just get up on the phone and go to the next one on your list? Would you? But why? Obviously, you've thought about making sure it's the best call you can make anyway. No, you wouldn't. What would you do? You'd call your best client. Would you just pick up the phone right then there and call it? So your best clients, not bad. What do you do? So what else? All right, I got my list of 10. If I make this one wrong, I get shot to death. Research. I'm going to do some research. What do you get research?
I want to know what they're doing, what the company is, what's maybe new or interesting that's going on with that company. I want to know if they're looking for anybody right now.
Awesome. So you get it down to 3 of them.
Right.
And they all have good, interesting things going on. Now what? Can I call these 3? What are you going to do? Which of the 3 do you call? What else are you going to want to add? You're not just going to want to risk it. You're all down the right path. You've all said the right things. Is that enough now? What else do you want to know? You have to get an order right now, job order. the most critical, so maybe they'll have the greatest chance of giving you the order. Yep.
I'm going to call the lead that my staffing manager just gave me. The candidate said they use temps and they're temping there, so I'm gonna call that client.
So this is, I'm going to call a lead where there's someone temping there right now. I know for sure they're using.
And I'm gonna market a candidate.
All right, and let's say you narrowed it down to those 5, and you have 5 companies that have leads right now, and they currently have something going on there. What might separate those? What might else want you to find out there? All right, so I know they use people.
With whom do I have the best relationship?
So out of these, 3 of them have used me before, so I got a really great shot of getting it. Out of these 3, what else? What else might you want to find out to say, this is the one I'm calling? They all 3 have temp needs.
How long has the position been open?
Oh, well, we didn't even say they were open there. All right, yeah. This one, the person just walked off the job a minute ago. And I work with them, and they're using an agency. Pretty good shot, right? All right, so that's one call. What if they said you got all day, but I'm going to be back at 5. And when I come back, I'm going to blow your friggin' brains out. I'm just saying, I got to make it worth it for people to want to come back and buy this. It's like watching a show on the DVD. They got the high def, and we're going to add sound effects. So you got all day, what are you going to do? Same thing, right? Except now you can take your time a little bit.
I'm gonna call my friend Amron.
Why? What's Amron? What are you going to call him?
He seems to know where everything is.
He's a candidate of yours?
No,
He's a friend? He knows what's going on in the market.
a friend and a client.
A friend and a client. Who might else you call?
Do an NPDL, let's file a job order.
You're going to market a job order to candidates for the purpose of what?
For the purpose of getting a job order.
Of getting a lead. So you're actually, to do this, wouldn't you take a step back and you say, okay, I got to be smart about this because my life's on the line. I got all day to figure this out. I'm going to make sure I have, in our example, we just want to go from maybe 2% success to 10% success, right? In this gun story, we want to go from, I don't know, 2% success to 100, 90, whatever. But of course you would, and it's the same concept as all I'm trying to drill home. You need to spend time and hours that you don't think you have in the day, that you always mean to get to make this happen. Because again, it'll dramatically increase it. It needs to be a critical KPI in your business. I don't care whether your manager follows it or not. Leads must be a KPI. It must be something that you are committed to with passion, and maybe for some of you it'll be one of those things you take from this boot camp that you're going to say, this is one of the things I'm going to make happen starting Monday. It needs to be something. I'm going to be committed to, and it's just an activity. I need to gather X number of leads a day or a week in order to get some great ones. The minimum I would ever set for anyone, and I did this at Mass, would be 10 hot leads, or I would start with 10 leads a week per person. I knew as a branch manager, if I got everyone to give 10 leads a week, I'm in great shape. You only need 1 or 2 really great ones, but 10 leads a week. And you need to track it. And it's that simple. But you need to do it. They're not just going to come. You need to say, I get it. I'm going to work smarter with this, and I'm going to make it part of my day because the hours I spend on this will pay for themselves and actually save time, not more, and more money. Both of them. And either of them could be your motivation. Right? So this is, I don't need to insult you on how and where to source for leads. It's on here. But the key is, throw some out. Where do you source for leads without looking at the PowerPoint? Where do you source for leads? Reference calls. Active candidates. Any candidate.
Your
Past clients. Yeah, I mean, really, everything you do. But here's the thing. Be honest, who here sources for leads all the time on every call? And there are some that do it, but they subscribe into this. That's got to, if you want the shortcut, you want the secret, you want the ability to blow away what your peers are doing and have less time doing it, it takes some work. It has to happen all the time. Every call you make is about marketing, For new business, it's about recruiting candidates. It's about sourcing for new business. It's about sourcing for new candidates. And it's about learning information in the market. That's everything, right? It's always about that. Job order side, client side, candidate side, recruiting. Sourcing for leads, getting information. Every call you make, whether it's a marketing call, you're starting as a marketing call, you're going to turn it into a recruit call, and then you're going to source information for possible job order leads and candidate leads. A recruiting call starts as a recruiting call. Then you're going to turn it into a marketing call, if that makes sense. You're going to source for job leads. You're going to source for other names of candidates. Information that you can help me with my desk about the client. We'll get into much more of that in the niche stuff. That's all that we do. And then as Tim said, then we get a job order sent out to candidates and we put it all together. But that's all that we do. So this lead thing needs to be ingrained as a paramount critical element of every call that you make. The tracking works great because when I would start with someone, I'd come in at the end of the first day, I'm like, how'd you do? I didn't get any. You got not one perm lead. No. And I asked, believe me. I'm like, no, you didn't ask because it's impossible. And then they'd get up there, then they know I'm not going away. No, I did this for myself when I bought into this concept. And then, you know, sure enough, then they get 4. Then, well, you want 10? I'll get crap leads if you want 10. I'm like, yeah, get me crap leads. That's fine. You're an idiot to want to only get 10 leads and make some of them crap. But over time, you'll learn of how to get better ones. But yeah, give me the crap ones. I just want to make sure you're always asking it. And then on the phone in the beginning, you got to remind yourself. You have to put a sticky up. Did I ask about leads? Someone calls in, they check in, whether it's a temp or a person responds to a posting, or you get the name of someone that you just sourced and you make your first contact with them. Oh, did I remember to ask about leads? Did I find out what's happening? Did I find out how they got their old job? All the time. It's got to be, it's easy once you build the habit. You've got to build that habit, and then you got to source and get that information. Every time, every conversation, every day. And look, the point is nothing more than focus where the action is. Focus where the action is. Focus where the action is now. Right? I mean, if I had to close a deal and I'm looking at this condo complex and the next 2 down there, and I know that in 2 of those rooms, people are interviewing and about to pay an agency $20,000 for that, I can go around and knock on every door till I find them. It might take me a week. Or I could spend a day, not the week, talking to people and using a little, clever questioning and information and find out what room these guys are interviewing in and then knock on the door and present my candidate. That's the concept. And again, you'll get better at sourcing the more success you get with it. You just got to build the habit. But it all starts with just holding yourself accountable to the KPI for the lead. Because again, if you do that, then your results are going to be unbelievable for it, and you'll be motivated to do it. And that's a big, big part. So I think you know what makes a good lead. But let's talk now. What makes a lead? What's the hottest lead in perm that you can get? The hottest, the best likelihood of success. And we gave a temp example. What's the very best you could think of? Someone who's motivated. The client, they're motivated. That's best. Yep, keep throwing them. Got to add to it.
We just placed a candidate out of a company. We pulled the candidate out of the company and placed him in another.
All right, so we just pulled the candidate out of a company. We placed him in another. We know there's an opening. The client's motivated. We know that they're currently interviewing, and we know that they're going to pay a fee to someone, right? Because we don't want to go down that road. I'm not saying we wouldn't call them anyway, but if they pay a fee, that's even better. What else is even better? We have a candidate, and we have a candidate that can get that job.
That through another recruiter sent him on an interview, and it's still open.
Right? Yep. So what else? What else can make this even better? All right. Same of the similar things that we mentioned before with the temp example. There's an opening. There's an opening now. The client's motivated. We have a candidate for it. They pay agency fees.
Well, also a candidate that's a very motivated candidate that you've hooked up with that's interviewing at a lot of
Agreed. All things being equal, we'd rather have now a candidate that's motivated that we can place. Yep.
candidate just said he's not taking the job from another recruiter.
Candidate turned down another job, and now he's ready. All right. So what else with the job order side?
Is that
Okay. What else? What else on the client side can make it even better? We have a relationship with them. So it's someone that we know, we have a relationship, we've used them temp or perm or in the past, there's an opening there now, they're using a competitor, and what might be even better? Using a competitor, a general service firm, or a specialty firm? Okay, now interesting, there's two angles here. So why is general service better? We can outperform them. So one might say, general service is better because I can win this, my odds of filling it are much better. Some might say, I'd rather know that they pay high fees. So maybe if they're using a general service firm, they're going to pay less fees than they would to a specialist. So it depends. And the best thing would be combining them. We know that historically, we know that they pay high fees. They happen to be using a generalist, and we're more niche specific, whatever that means, which we'll get into during the boot camp. And that's even perfect, right? So you want to work for this as much as you possibly can. Now, what I don't get as a perm recruiter, and again, I know plenty of people don't agree that this should be the be-all and end-all, and I'd be thrilled if one of you becomes that. You don't need to. But from my perspective, why does anyone bother calling anywhere else when we have a product that talks that can get us this? Now, here's where I come from. And I get into this in a bit when we talk about hunting versus farming. Why not always be hunting in our business, on the perm side in particular? Okay. I'm sorry? Well, but is farming a cakewalk? Farming, you're out in the field all day, the sun's sweating on you? Is farming any easier than hunting? I mean, they both are hard, and it goes back to what we talked in the morning, right? But sure, there's room to farm. So, but why not start with a hunt where you know there is something you might be able to eat today, right? And then where you don't win, either they won't work with you for whatever reason, or obviously in retained search it'll be that case. We could start farming them from that and build a relationship for the longer term. Why just pick someone out to cold call to farm, which is what many people do? They come up with their target accounts. If you get leads and you get them all the time, it won't take you very long to know where all the activity is in your market, whether it's geographically based or it's sector based, or whether you're a nationwide practice. You'll find out who the real players are in that specific area and all the activity and where it's happening. So I don't get why people don't do this all of the time and they do nothing but call there. So this is just a list of places for your take home. I want to get into some of the territory stuff. I don't want to insult you on this, other than get really good at this. Train yourself on this, review this, make sure you did it all the time. Every call, all the time. B or C candidate leads are awesome. When I would meet a candidate that I would never put on a send out, and I find that they're interviewing through recruiters all over the place, I love it. That goes back to the point we made before. I'm like, this is great. I know that some firm is putting out mediocre people or aren't screening their people the right way, and it's a great call for me to make. And I'll mention sometimes a candidate's name, or I know people that they've been seeing, and then I'm not going to send you someone like that. Where people have recently interviewed, where they got their current job, where they got their last job, right? You guys know all this stuff. When you're interviewing, hey, I saw you were there 8 months ago and now you're leaving. How'd you get that job, by the way? Through an agency, really? Which one was it, by the way? Yeah, I interviewed at these 3 places. Great, who was it with? Through a firm. Oh yeah, which firm? So in the beginning, again, you're going to see, you're writing down leads, but you want to know, is it an agency? And that's what I'd be dealing with people. I need more. Who was it with? Was it a competitor? What type of firm? Who'd they meet with? Anyone have a great trick they do to get the name of who they meet with when you're sourcing for leads? I'll just throw it out quickly. It's not a big part of training. You have one? I was taught this really early on. I love it. I'm no means a creator. There's nothing to it. Some of you obviously do it. Anytime I'd source for a lead, I would use the old Bob Anderson close, and you just throw it in there. Oh, yeah, awesome. So it was for a senior financial analyst or for a trauma nurse. Hey, who did you interview with over there? Was it Bob Anderson? And they always correct you and say, no, it was Steve Blakely. Oh, Steve Blakely, thank you. In what department's he in? Ching. So again, it's just a great way to sort of get the name of the people without, being terribly much of a shyster. So You have this for the handout. I don't want to spend time on that. I don't think you need to be scouring the job boards and your specialty to find leads. They're not bad ones, but they'll never be better than finding something where you source that stuff on your own, okay? And I'm going to give you some other tips in a little bit for it. I mentioned there was two sort of cure-alls to our business. One was leads, and the other one is candidate flow, and I just want to talk about that for a minute as well. It is the panacea of our business. It is something that's been quoted to me. It's just unbelievable. Commit yourself to meeting, or if you have a national practice, a global practice, then have more, phone meets, more real interviews, etc. More people you meet, the more leads you're going to get, the more people that become clients of yours, the more people that will refer other candidates to you passively, the better the quality of your send-outs will be because you'll have more people to choose from, the better the quality of your temp fills, you name it, it's just unbelievable. And I have a couple of visuals, but if the average recruiter sees and interviews 5 people a week, which most recruiters don't even do that, and they commit themselves to seeing 12, another big thing I followed up on, that's 350 more people per year. That's a room of 350 people. That's how many extra direct line connections they have that they've met or thoroughly interviewed or had a phone relationship with on an interview. And that's critical for building your network. And it ties into leads because the more people you meet, even if they're people, I don't want to waste my time, I'm not going to place them, you haven't bought into the lead thing. Because it's a great source, it's great for research network, and especially if you niche, all of this together works, and that's time you need to spend to save all the other time that the other recruiters that aren't being efficient are spending. If you go from 5 to 12 in a 6-person office, that's 2,000 people a year. Look at what 2,000 people look like. For one office of 6 people. That's unbelievable. All right, so you get that. I already told you I want you to rank your leads from cold to hot. Hot and sizzling are the hottest you can get. Colder, it's either aged or we don't have enough information about it. Okay, the next thing you need to do is, in essence, create your own CRM with this. Okay, create your own system. And what I want you to do in simple terms is database your leads. I mean, what if you would have a CRM that, again, gave you a customer relations management system, client relations management system, a database in essence? This goes back to what I opened with. What if you had the regular ongoing report of where all the open orders were, where the orders were last week? Anytime you have a certain position that you need to skill market, MPC, what types of positions have been hot, okay? What industries or companies in your sector are hiring, right? To be able to create the sales genies and the Salesforce.com, be able to have a system that could tell you where to call on a regular basis with the greatest likelihood. You can do this and you could create this unbelievably if you database your leads. Now, I started with an Excel spreadsheet. It's perfectly acceptable. Make it crude, make it 6 columns, just list the things we talked about. Now, I've done this one so many times, I have not created one, and I didn't do it on purpose because it should just be your own and it's very simple. And me sending you something that has 6 columns that you will make in 3 seconds, I think defeats the purpose. You can make it as complicated as you want or as simple. I started with Excel, and I would just have the columns on the company name, the contact name, the candidate that gave the name. I'd rank the lead on 1 to 5 or hot to cold. Was it temp? Was it perm? How did I find out about it? Was it through an agency or not? Comment section. Done. Then I said, it's getting hard to search by position, so I created drop downs in Excel. It'll just fill it in. I then, used Lotus Approach when that was around, a database program. And I built a database program for it because I believed in it so much. This was so unbelievable that I used this my entire career. I was able to outbill, when I first came to the company, when I was just a branch manager, I was able to outbill almost every single person in the company by working 2 hours versus their 8. And this was my trick and secret. I'm like, I'll share it with you. And I did share with my people, and I'm like, this is all that I focus on. And I go nuts, and now I database them. If you database them, not only are you just going after leads when you have them, but think about how different your calls will look when you meet that great candidate and you want to skill market them. In theory, if you're skill marketing someone, wouldn't I just want to call? So I meet, a gold miner. You know, unbelievable skills. He's a dwarf. You know, they sing when they come to work, right? Do I want to just skill market them to every gold company or gold mine that I know of? Or, hey, why not find out every place right now in the last couple of weeks that have been looking for gold miners? You start there with your database. You just search it, boom, Excel. Don't even make any macros. You don't, boom, sort, blah, and you find it. Anytime you skill market, anytime you market, anytime, even if it's not skill market, but I want to follow up and get some sort of job order today, why don't I follow up on all the leads that I know have been using agencies anyway, where there's been some stuff going on. Maybe it means they have other uses. Maybe it means that the person didn't work out. Maybe the person left, whatever, right? Database system, it's gold, it's magic. I believed in this so much that when I became president of Agilon, the very first project that I had was to take my crude database that I had every single branch work on in my entire region, and I don't know, 20 offices, everyone was doing it, and we created a web-based system to do it. And we spent 10 grand on it or whatever. We had it on the web, every office in the country would have it. We ultimately tied it into the CRM, the front office system. You don't need to do all that is my point. A regular database works fine, a regular Excel sheet works fine, and from a management perspective or from an accountability perspective, when I would go to branches to follow up on sales, I would look at the volume of leads. I would look at where we saw multiple leads. Wait a minute, what's going on at AT&T? They're using this competitor, that competitor, and this competitor for these two types of positions. We're not in there. What have we been doing? Let's pull up the sales. Oh, I left them a message. Oh, can't get in, left another message. That's what I would follow up on as a manager. I would follow up on the leads, on where the activity has been, on the people that are paying it. So, again, that's the long and short of it, but it's unbelievable. If you want to get fancy and start databasing ads, job postings, anything that you see in your market or your niche, it's easy enough for an admin person to do, spending an hour a week. It's equally powerful. You tie them both together. Great information. Let's just deal with leads right now and a simple Excel sheet. And if you're getting 10 a week, again, ultimately you'll be able to get 10 a day. You'll have 40, 50 a week. That's 600 in a year. No, it's a lot more. That's that 10 a week, right, is the 600. You'll have thousands and thousands after a year, okay? So, again, it gives you the CRM. It'll tell you clients you might be losing. It's how I drove the business. I used it for everything. Wow, we're finding out leads here where we used to do business and now they're dealing with someone else. These guys are loyal, they're not loyal. I lost them, I got to stay in touch. This helps me with my call frequency of what we need to call. Okay, so again, leads. Get it? All right, so this ties in to, all right, let's just leave. This ties into this whole concept of territory management. And, well, Neil, territory management is different than leads. Yes and no. But less is more when it comes to any call that you make. Now, what do I mean by that? How is less more? Right? Well, we gave some of the quality example. I already said now we're going to talk about the quality of the call. But why? Why would having less equate to better quality, which means I can actually get more by doing less with a number of prospects? Why? I want to take a stab?
If you're spending more time on your quality calls, it's going to lower the number of calls you're making in a day. So by focusing on the one, you're going to immediately draw down the other. So more quality calls leads to the lower.
And so, why would these calls be better qualities? So I'm more prepared than I would on another one. Why would I be more prepared? Because I'm focusing on more of a handful. I'm focusing on less. So I got to make them better.
That relation versus 40 clients because you have more quality. So you would get more from those less clients because you're able to give that quality.
Absolutely. You can get better quality time with them, right? It's all of these things. But I'm going to tell you, this goes right along with leads. I actually stumbled into the lead concept from going to a course on this. It was a Tony Robbins sales course. It was well over 20 years ago. It was done via cable or some weird thing. The technology is way, way outdated, but that a facilitator is unbelievable. This was, I think, the very first course, or was the second one, but this was the first meat and potatoes. And he said, I'm going to leave you with the one thing that's going to change your lives, it's going to change your desk, it's going to change your business forever. And it was so profound. And he was talking to everyone. It didn't matter what they sold, recruitment, insurance, office equipment, mining, whatever it is. And it was this concept of less and more. And that you have too many prospects and you need to cut them down, period. It's counterintuitive. People want more. They want to hoard them. They think the better they have or the better potential clients that they have, more quantity, quantity, quantity means better results. And he said, it is the death of you. And he went on to explain, it doesn't work cold calling. It doesn't work having a big list of prospects. Why not? Can't handle them efficiently. So what happens, do you think? Lose your reputation. What happens? You give up. You don't call them. You leave a voicemail. Things fall through the cracks. People don't follow up. Anyone not believe that? It's the worst thing that salespeople deal with. There's tons of courses on follow-up, how to do it effectively. As an executive, I was on the receiving end of hundreds of calls a week from salespeople. I blew all of them off at first. My assistant had it down. Wouldn't even pick up my voicemail unless I knew who it was. How many of those people you think even bothered to call me back once? So few. How many people you think persisted 3-4 times leaving a voicemail? Couple, not many. How many people, when they got through with me and they tried calling me again and I just didn't take that one call to ever hear from again? I can actually picture in my head the number of salespeople my entire career as an executive who would follow up with me on a regular basis, got to know me, built a relationship. On a hand. And hundreds. And you know what I'm talking about. It's that feeling, too, when you know you had to call someone and you make a phone call to them and you get their voicemail and you're actually kind of excited because you get to leave a message and chalk it off your list, right? And put it back at the end of the list, or 4 to 2 days or a week or 2 months on your system, right? That's what everyone does in sales. And everyone laughs about it because it's all true. And we know it. And it doesn't work. And it doesn't allow for a relationship. And especially if you're not super niched or niched. Everyone's your possible client or candidate, and you're talking to everyone, and you have no relationships with these people. It doesn't work. It doesn't. You're constantly going to put people at the end of the Rolodex. And I used to, show this, and it got out of date. Now it's kind of funny because young people don't even know what a Rolodex is. But it's that visual of moving it just to the back of the deck and moving it up, moving it to the end of the CRM system. There's no ownership, and that's the point, right? Remember what I talked about this morning? There's no passion. What's my reason for making this phone call? That's why they stink. What's my reason for making most of the cold calls I make or the phone calls I make? It's a numbers game. I've got to make it to get to my, statistics, so I'll eventually hit one of them. That is not fun. What sort of conviction and passion for accomplishing a sales call do people have, right? And that's the voicemail thing. So, and providing value, all that, right? So again, this is now the quality of the call itself, of the relationship building, of what you need to do to get through to them. That's what it's all about. Okay, so it's this passion and it's this mission. So let's go back to the gun story. You now have to get a send out by the end of the day. You're allowed 2 companies to call. You get on the phone, you narrow it down, you decide, okay, just for today, because we're playing a real extreme numbers game, even though, Neil, I'm not going to buy into it that it's going to affect it if I have lower stats. But I'm going to call absolutely hot leads where things are going on right now, where they use all these best things, wonderful. All right. So what do? Start throwing them out there. What are we going to do? We got the 2 I'm going to call.
I'm going to call my most faithful and loyal client.
Right like that, just going to pick up the phone?
10-year
I'm not.
relationship.
I'm not picking up the phone yet. I'm not. But yes, that's the one I'd call, so that's good. But I'm not picking up the phone yet. What else are we going to do? Someone said research. Sorry?
Well, I know that I work with Medtronic, and I know that they I know that manager? I place people with them. How long has it been open? Do I have people that I could place with them?
All right, so you start doing a whole bunch of research there. And let's say it wasn't Medtronic, you didn't know them as well. What might else you do to get information on them?
Well, if it's only gonna be the one call I can make, I wouldn't do that.
If there's a gun to your head, you're going to die at the end of the
I
day?
know that I have clients I would.
You're going to die at the end of the day. You wouldn't in that one case? Death is on the line.
Then I would call somebody that, no,
All right, all the people, all the clients you do know, they were shot to death by the same guy. Okay, so now you're dealing with, so you have the new, this is morbid, it's horrible. You've got, I'm saying you would do some research, right? Everyone, I'll go on the web, I do some research, right? No? You're going to die? Go to my database, find out about the company, find out what projects they have, maybe a press release. Maybe the hiring manager, I'm going to call, I'm going to go on LinkedIn, see who they're connected with, maybe talk to some of those people, get some information. Hey, maybe talk to some of the people that were placed there in the past. All these things you've been trained on. They're in some of your manuals somewhere. Stuff we're going to talk about here, right? That's all great. But how often do we do them? Who, on every call that they make to all their potential sales calls, goes to the lovely internet, researches the company, goes on LinkedIn, gets all the people that they're connected to? Who does that on most of their calls even? You, and business is a bit different, right? But that's still rare. It's what you have to do. Why don't people do it? Same reason I mentioned before. We all know, of course we should. We got the web there. I could find out people that work there that could tell me what I need to say to get the order, what I need to do to get in, to sound more intelligent, to sound like an expert that knows their business better than anyone. But we don't because we're doing too much. We're calling too many people, and it's not possible. And I wouldn't do it either. If you had two, you think you're going to do it? Two. Damn right I'm gonna. If these are the two and I'm going to die, I'm gonna throw out all the tricks. But it's cool because the time I'm spending doing that, again, I could spend 3 hours doing that and get better results than the 6 hours I'm gonna spend cold calling and being miserable. So this actually be kind of fun. So I'm gonna talk to all these people, I'm gonna be a little detective with all the names. I'm gonna do everything I can. Then I'm gonna make the call. And I go in and I leave voicemail. What do we do next? Oh no, voicemail, both of them. Do I even leave a voicemail? I get his machine, what do I do? Hang up. Really? Yeah, I would. Why am I going to hang up now? I never hang up. I've been taught to always leave a voicemail message. Things can happen.
You call again, they know where you are, and they know who you're calling.
Yeah, if you leave a message, you're now, when can you call back, right? Because once you leave that message, it's now on the onus for them to return the call.
Right, then you're a pain in the butt. Now, at some point you will if you keep doing it. Right, but no, don't leave a message. All right, so I don't leave a message. What do I do next? Hit zero. Try to get him, see if I can't reach him. All right, so my plan is I'm going to call him again a couple hours later, an hour later. Boom, no, don't do it there. All right, it's the end of the day. What do I do? It's the next morning. What am I going to do now? What do I do? No, you're not dead. You got a full week. Oh, you're right. You're dead. Thank you very much. You are dead. Okay, so let's forget about the day example. You get the thing. Let's go back to the week, and I'm going to go back to the Tony Challenge that I'm going to leave you with. You got a week now to come back to class. A week. You come back to class next week. If we had a boot camp here next week, you'd come back and you're going to have 2 placements or 2 send-outs on job orders that you were committed to using this strategy. What are you going to do? My point is, you're going to do anything and everything for those 2, if that's all you have. You're going to have fun with it. You're going to do research. You're going to have passion. You're going to have commitment. When you do, I'm going to know here's the approach. I'm going to think about my hot buttons and my point of difference and my elevator pitch. I'm going to think about that, right? I'm going to think if it's an MPC call I'm going to make, MPA call, skill marketing, whatever. I'm going to think about that call a little more than I normally would, won't I? When they tell me, hey, look, Neil, this is great, this is awesome, but right now we're happy with the agencies we're using, I'm not just going to throw out the old standard. I'm going to really, really get good at my objection handling for that one, aren't I? And if I didn't do a good job, I'm actually going to call them back and say, you know what, I was thinking about what you said there. And I'm going to find a client that actually gave me a job order and I made a placement after they gave me that objection. I'm going to have them write out a reference on me saying that I blew this guy off and I was dealing with someone else and I finally convinced me and I loved him for the following reasons and now he's one of the best. And I'm going to call this guy back. I'm going to let him see it, right? I'm going to FedEx him a package. Get it? And I got to say, I remember, again, it's over 20 years ago, thinking this is brilliant. This is brilliant because I hate He's talking to me. He wasn't talking to me. He was doing this all over the country. We don't like cold calls. We want the trick. We want the secret. And look, it's still hard work, but it's far more fun of going after the big kill and doing all those things. And the second you buy into the fact that it doesn't take more time, you're trading off that creative time for, again, much less productive volume time that doesn't get you anywhere. And it's unbelievable. So he left the challenge, and I need everyone to come up with 2 targets and 2 targets only for the next week. I want you to take my challenge. I want you all to do it. I'll follow up with an email on it, but I know some of you will do it and some won't. You're crazy not to. Come up with 2 targets that you've been either dying to get an appointment with, for the longer cycle, like a retained search. I would do that. Someone where you know that they use your competitors, you want to get in on the action, and you've been trying to meet them, okay? Everyone else, I want you to think of something similar where you know that there's been a great hot lead or something, and 2 people that you're going to get no matter what. I want you to put all your other marketing calls aside. If you still do the rest of your jobs, filling your orders, doing whatever. If your boss gives you a hard time, so you paid for my training, coming here, this is one of the things they wanted me to do, let's go for it. And I want you to come up with these 2 companies. Now, I'm sitting there, again, Tony wasn't training to the recruiting industry. So I trained in the recruiting industry. I already told you the answer there. That's when the light bulb went off for me. How do I do this? And he talked about likelihood for success. Get your best prospects. Make these smart. Sort of gun to the head ideas, something like that. So I want you to do that, but use the leads. I want you to find 2 hot, the best leads you can get. And don't worry about it. On Monday, if you don't have them, spend the day on your marketing time just sourcing for great leads until you get them. Okay, you'll get them easily when you're focused on it. And then your goal is to get at least the job order and or send out scheduled by the next week. And if you don't, you failed. And he promised the room that the majority would land both or have something significant that never would have happened, and that just about everyone will have succeeded on one of the 2, which is a ridiculous promise to me. I'm making you that promise. And I did this. And I went nuts at getting the leads, and they weren't the best leads. They fell into my lap. They were good. It was through a competitor, whatever. I remember to this day the stories of how they happened. I remember landing the order, but you got to do everything. You can't leave the messages, and you got to plan out your calls. What's that going to look like? So you're going to need to do this on Monday. What's it going to look like? What's my first call going to be? What's my second? What am I going to do with LinkedIn? What am I going to do with the social networks? What am I going to do with the websites? How am I going to find people that worked in the company? Am I going to use my database? Am I going to use online stuff? What information do I want to get? How do I want to source that? What do I want to find out so I can sound as an expert? What's my angle going to be for the person? If I skill market in, how do I let them know I know the company really well and I'm not just another person? When will I mail something? When will I FedEx something? When will I stop by the office if they don't do it? It's now Thursday. When will I send an in-mail? When will I send over a dozen roses with a message saying, look, please, I'm very different. I hope this points it out. Please talk to me. When am I going to do all these things? And I just want you to focus on those 2. Because A, it'll be invigorating and exciting, and B, you're going to end up landing these things. So it's that key. Okay, so I want you to come up with it. As I mentioned, I wasn't planning on getting into the keys for the hunting and farming. I just want to show you what we have here. This works for any position that you have, as I opened with. When I was a manager and then when I became the president, I would routinely go into branches and cut territories. I would look at a branch that only had 2 sales reps. Our competitors had 8 in the market, and I would cut it down. I'd cut it down to 8 territories, and you now have a quarter of your territory. And they'd all cry and threaten to quit, and how dare you do this to me? And I promised them and trained on them, explained to them how their laser focus, their narrowed focus is going to have them far better relationships and experiences with their clients, and they'll be thanking me. And just about every single one did, and there's a ton of successes of people who became, the top sales reps in the company. It's that powerful. Look at the analogy on any sort of company that sets up territories. And I get into this also a bit on the MPC calls. But how do you think Famous Amos and Fritos and Entenmann's, beer distributors, soda, how do they set up their territories? These are huge companies. Do you think they work like recruiters and they say, hey, pick up the phone, sell some soda? How do they do it? Right? They all work by backing into the number. Here's the number of potential bars, supermarket stores that exist. Here's the sort of relationship we need. Here are the different people that we need to talk to in each place. This is how much time we need for travel and for each visit. Then we take that and we don't leave it up to the salespeople. The parent company comes up and they says, here's how it's going to work. Here's your territory. For Coca-Cola, it could be a 2-block territory in a big city. That's your territory. These 2 blocks, I want everyone to be using Coke. Okay, maybe it's 8 blocks, maybe it's 10 blocks. Not all of the city. You need to make it happen in these places and we'll hire more. If there's an open territory because someone quit, they don't just say to the other person, here, go ahead, sell to that territory too. No, we'll have to get that one filled, sell to this territory. They back into it, and it's all based upon call frequency, and they're all small. So it is the same concept. You need to work with a relatively small group so you get that relationship, which will happen. All of your calls will be much better. Your focus, this is all you're doing, and then you're cultivating these farming calls. Do I have that much longer? No.
Don't need that, we're fine.
Well, you can edit this out, right? No, it's supposed to end at 12:15, isn't it? No. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm done. I'm just going to take 5 more minutes, but yeah, we're... Okay?
Yeah, no,
No problem. Tim's not good with math, but he's a great, great trainer. 30 minutes, wow. I'm like, I'm in big effing trouble. Yeah, no, we're just about another 5 minutes here. All right, so again, the territory concept is all about the relationship and taking things to the next level and getting more creative. And all the things we're going to talk about over the next 2 days with the value, it makes everything so much easier. Trust me and try it. I was sold after that 1 week. And again, that's where the whole lead thing and the databasing it and all evolved. And I think it's crazy to really work any other way. So this is the top 2 call plan B, and I need you to come out with it. There's some tips there for you. It's what we already talked about. And I'm going to leave you with all this stuff on hunting versus farming, but I'm not passionate about it because I think if you always work on starting with sourcing where the action is and going there, that will define your plan. Again, by definition, of course. It will define it by definition. It's repetitively redundant, right? So always hunt. And then you could turn into farming. So what I've given you here to take home with you is, look, this has some of the best things I've seen. Now, I think, again, some things are different for niche experts, but these are great things for top 30, for tier 1, 2, and 3 accounts, the call frequency that you should make on it. And for those, this is, look, it's great stuff that you ultimately add from your hunting. But I don't think you need to do any of this, and it gets very, very complicated. And this, I would start, this shows you different ways to prioritize your targets, but I would start with the leads. Okay, so people using zip code lists, D&B reports, databases, nuts to me. Nuts, crazy. For researching, for candidates, for clients, it's nuts. Again, good as a starting point, nuts for work in the network, okay? So, limit the field. This is an example. This is just a picture. You can't really tell here, but it's a couple of really nice ripe pieces of fruit or just a ton of, rotting fruit. Go where the good stuff is there. All right, so I've got different types of calls and different things you should make. This is great for your staff. Use it. If you do run out of calls in the beginning, these are the checking calls and the reference calls and all the other sort of calls that you should be making. Okay, so refer back to this. Okay. All right, and then again, this just walks you through all the calls. The other thing that I left with you that I want you to see is a necessary needs form. I get this requested a lot. To me, it's a whole training too, but it's the boring stuff you've all seen before, and many of you know. It'll help certainly any of you new people, but these are great questions to ask when you're trying to learn information about a company over time. So their usage and viability, questions that you should ask about people that they hire, vendor questions, helps you that you can help create your prospect list and help refine others. You'll want that stuff. Again, I didn't want to make today about going through it, but know that in your package you have all these great things. Okay, and I have all the pitfalls to avoid that I mentioned I was going to leave you with. But this is why the big accounts don't fail, and all these things, you'll know, but these are the things you now can do, right? The account isn't really qualified. Well, that becomes moot now if you're really focused on quality. Of course they'll be qualified. But this is a big problem that most prospectors have. So you don't need to worry about that because it fixes itself. They don't meet the right people. Well, of course you're going to meet the right people now. That's all you're going to be doing with these one or two is finding the right people to talk to. So that all disappears. The relationship isn't deep enough. I'm not just dealing with one person. As I get in there and I'm working with my clients and I want to manage and grow and build with, of course I'm going to know many people in there because I'm not constantly calling and trying to work with every, Tom, Dick, or Harry. Okay? The plan is simple. You will be assessing it regularly. In fact, you'll be assessing it, daily when you do it. So again, I'd read through these things. I think they're helpful or I wouldn't have included them. So that's the concept, guys. I mean, it's, again, not rocket science. But if you're committed to doing this both for the leads or even just cutting down your territories and focusing to be able to do more, you will markedly change the way you do your business. And again, I love it because it's simple and anyone can do it. But it does take work and discipline to change your ways on it. And I'm telling you from experience, that's why I'm bringing it up today. So good luck with it. I'd love to hear your success stories. I've seen many in my day, but I'd love to hear from anyone in this room any of the success that you get next week, and we'll share it with the group. So thank you all very much. Enjoy your lunch coming up, and carpe diem.